I'm talking about how we were talking before we hit record that I've been in the same house. I don't know if anyone else has picked up weird quarantine habits. I mean, not even everyone's even like quarantining anymore, especially if you're like, if you have a job that makes you leave the house, you're probably just not even able to anymore. But I am, and I walk around my house all day referring to every noun as like the beep. And in the context of like, I'll say to Moore, who lives with me, and say, Moore, hand me the beep, or oh, did you get the beep, or what's wrong with the beep? And it can refer to any object in the house. And then Dragor said, your beep's in my mouth, and I'm like, you see, in that context, beep would always mean feet.
Well, he previously just referred to a vape pen as the beep, and then it went in my mouth.
Yeah.
And it was your cartridge, aka your beep.
I would say, do you want the beep? And I would be holding it and gesturing it at you. And everyone yeah, through context clues. It's not the same as Smurf, because that's for every that's for verbs, isn't it?
Smurf? Oh yeah. That's been around since the arcade. Oh, that's been around since fighting game days.
I'm trying to remember how Smurfs
Someone
talk
got smurfed.
now.
Oh,
well,
just
I mean their language principles of the character and fantasy race Smurfs.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant the verb. Someone got smurfed.
Well, that in the show they
I get what you're saying.
Pick something up. They smurf something up.
I did smurf that up.
See, Smurfs are beep, or God damn it, Smurfs are beeps. Smurf is a verb. When you smurf something. Beeps are nouns. So it's unlike Smurf language in that way.
Episode title: Hey, can you smurf the beep?
See, I remember hearing that the Smurfs were like commies and like Papa Smurf was like Karl Marx.
Just because he has a freaking beard.
Yeah.
Was that cartoon originally Russian or I don't remember? I think it's just American. Smurfs, country of origin. It's gonna be like where in the fantasy they are. Oh, Belgian. That's what it is. I knew it wasn't purely American, but like in the 50s. Apparently, yeah. Pierre Culiford, known as Peyo. Wow. All right, so welcome to Last Minute Politics. My name is Pepper, and I am joined by...
Me, Dragor.
Zanny the Blue.
And we are here to talk about current events and furry nonsense. Right now, we're talking about the... what is that, etymology? Is that the study of word language? I don't know my etymologies. Entomology is bugs. Talking about the etymology of friggin' Smurfs and how they function in a grammatical structure. And later we're going to talk about Arizona. What would you two like to talk about before I start rambling into things? Like, how's your week been? What's going on?
A work-related one that I shared was about basically like fitness programs through work that's tied to your insurance and things that perhaps a lot of people might not think about if they're signing up for stuff like that.
Especially, I think we're usually high deductible healthcare plans. Is that genre of thing?
That is what I have.
I used to have one. Yeah.
I mean,
hey, like, young people, millennials, you all have those.
We'll talk about that later.
None.
Then also, the Governor Newsom petition.
The recall.
Yeah, the recall.
The recall.
Oh, I got those polls ready to go.
The utilities basically lobbying and doing nefarious things to try and make consumer-installed solar have more taxes and prices.
And Zanny, what thunder are you bringing today?
Oh, just, the usual. I've just been wrestling with the pharmacy as usual, trying to get my goddamn medications. That's what I've been dealing with in the week. But,
yeah, it's almost hard. I imagine it's hard to know how much of that is like, is there a transphobe or just like weird stuff in that way, or how much is just normal American trying to get any pharmaceutical ever? Like,
Yeah, my Walgreens is pretty notoriously bad for even a Walgreens. So
Yeah,
I just
geez.
have to go to a less bad Walgreens too.
You gotta go to a Walmart and then
But to get any of that done is just no one talks to each other, as you know, in the
Oh, yeah,
medical
absolutely.
industry, and just getting all that moved over is such a pain in the ass. And I was supposed to get transferred to my new doctor, my new gender therapist, which has been like a 2-month process to get that done. That got canceled, and we both don't know why, and that's horrifying.
And now you get to call the insurance again, right?
Well, we can just reschedule that one, but we've been trying to get this one to happen so many times. It's just I'm done with that shit. But other than that, also been following what you'd already mentioned with that FurCon, as you mentioned.
Actually, you want to start talking about some of the fandom stuff and then go into more. That's like almost like
Yeah.
my version of starting light.
Let's do that because we're
this with
we're
FurCon
mostly
stuff. No one
furries.
ever dies. No one's like usually
Yeah,
no one
but in
ends
this
up in
case,
jail.
content warning, if you dig into that FurCon, there are some sound bites, screen captures that are horrible.
Yes.
Milestone in downloads. I know we didn't talk about that we crossed 1,000 downloads, but we're also like well above 2,000 total downloads now.
cool.
Probably actually closer to
Woo.
3 or so. So thank you very much for listening, everybody. I don't fully know how the Podbean app like conglomerates. That's not the right word. Combined like finds those numbers. I assume it like adds up all of the listens from all of the platforms, but maybe it's not that. Who knows? Thanks for listening, though. Big number. Hooray. All right, so talking about the alt-right FurCon, like the freedom
FurCon.
the freedom FurCon, the FurCon that is like a combo shit post and like just to own the libs, like start a FurCon that own the libs is what it kind of
Yeah.
seems like, right? So it's in the middle of Oklahoma. Like we already say, like probably nobody's gonna go. But I also have a friend who's like, I'm gonna go to like document it and I'm gonna get the buzz, see what I'm like. Wait, actually my response was don't work yourself into a shoot.
Yes.
Like, look, if you just go to the con and accidentally have like a great time, you're just like partied with weirdos, then you're not like
No,
owning
not just
anyone.
weirdos.
And you're giving them
Fashy
your
folk.
money, like you're like buying a thing to like,
You're supporting a charity that's basically Tiger King and should not be a charity.
yeah, but do you
Jesus
realize
Christ.
that's who I was hanging out with this weekend, and I don't know what I don't want to be put in a position where I'm having to. Pepper, why aren't you, Pepper? You need to be doing more to alter the
Okay,
charities. Of
You're
these
going
guys.
to a con though, primarily to sell. So, like, if you
Oh,
don't
boy.
support a charity, you can always say, "This show is not for charity." I don't know. That's an awkward what if situation.
So I don't want to steal the thing. We'll go back to this, but quick aside, I'm literally on the plane to Tales and Tornadoes FurCon, which I mentioned that was going to the last one, and overall. That con was a good time for me personally, and it seemed like the implementing a vaccine mandate was not a big deal. I worked in Reg for a few hours, and there was no point where, like, I think the longest anyone waited for Reg that wasn't like, oh, we have to mess with the computer and your paperwork is wrong or something. Like, just a normal Reg, I think was like 10 minutes.
Oh, hooray!
There was no line. Like, usually we're just in the empty room, and I'm like, oh, okay, we're all just here alone in a silent room with our thoughts now. So, from a logistics standpoint, from like that, I'm glad they did the thing and it wasn't even that big of a deal. On the other hand, I'm on a plane on my way there when I am tagged in a tweet that says, "Hey, this is the charity for the right wing FurCon, and here's a bunch of here's a bunch of bad information." Here, Drager, do you have like a summary of the complaints about that charity?
I mean, you just go scrolling through their pictures, and it looks like they're doing very unsafe things with large, dangerous animals. And then someone died, and there's a suit against them. I died might not be it. It might just be harmed. But like,
Died maybe. I'm sorry, we don't have more accurate.
I read about it like, I don't know, a week and a half ago. I wish I had that on hand. I didn't realize we were going to bring it up.
We're in like a lot of smoke, no fire situation,
Yeah.
basically. It's like a lot of stuff that doesn't look great.
I went to the website and I'm looking around going, would I partner with this? Not based on a website alone.
Oh.
I mean, but and then on the other hand, it's like, well, maybe they're just like don't have the resources to do PR better, but are genuinely out there trying to help animals. Maybe
They might be
I don't
genuinely
know.
trying
Like,
to help, but
I'm just like a guy who's trying to do a crappy guitar concert at a FurCon for like 40 people.
you have
And
perceived
I d-
power of social status, and people
yeah.
still haven't learned that doesn't mean what they think it means.
I barely have the power to get a show. Like, guys, people think that I'm like sit on the high furry council and like make any calls. It is just that's just not my thing. Not that I'm entirely powerless, and like I try to do as much like Game of Thronesing for good, if you know, like just like, hey, this seems like a bad idea. Like try to be. Whenever I can, but people do not just like go, oh, Pepper said blah blah. Let us regard his opinion very highly. In general, I'm kind of considered like a crazy person, which is fine, and or a drunk, and that's great with me. I don't want to wield any kind of. I don't want to be influenced in the first place.
The town
But,
drunk of furry.
Yeah, right. So like the position I have to like rationalize myself into is that there's first of all no way for me to know, like I'm not a fucking PI. I don't know how ethical or unethical this charity is. Maybe they're doing the hearts in the right place, doing the best they can, and they just have like sloppy photography, and maybe this lady should not be as close to these like tigers as they are in like their fucking living room. But there really are tigers, lions, and bears who need to eat a crazy amount of food, and they need a bunch of like continuous money to make the thing operate. And then the question becomes like, well, if it's like a bad operation, it should be allowed to fail. So like then
Yeah.
a better one can emerge. And I'm over here. I'm a guitar guy at a furry convention. Do I say, oh, surprise? I know you like all brought me out and are paying all these things because on some level, I don't have a contract or anything, but there's kind of the implicit arrangement that I'm going to do something that will benefit the charity. Like with Alkali, when Alkali goes to shit, that's why he's known for. He does big charity stunts to get people to spend a bunch of money on dumb shit like, at FurCons. And I do that too, not as well, but I try. And whoa, do I say, oh, on the way here, I heard about this, so now fuck the charity. I'm not actually going to do the thing I said I would do. Or do I fundraise for a potentially unethical charity? And I don't know if there are answers to these questions. I'm just saying them out loud.
It's one of those where, like, if in your short time window and reasonable means, you see something and go, oh, this is very true. These are facts. Here is evidence supporting this is wrong. If it's that clear cut, then make a decision. But if it's not, like, you're in the worst position. You can't validate. You can't verify. Maybe it's a hit job. You don't know.
I mean, genuinely, I do not believe that any of this would have come to our attention if it was not for Right Wing FurCon. Because it starts as like, wait, they're doing this thing. Who's their charity? What are they? And then, like, not saying that makes it like better or like, oh, cancel culture is ruining FurCon or whatever the fuck. That's not what I'm saying at all. But I mean, that's why the spotlight got shown.
Right. Well, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how information falls into your lap. So in this particular case, when you are sitting there on the plane, you don't have much reasonable ability of you as a performer. Like, well, I was thinking this in my head. You must be true to thine hustle above all else.
I did talk to leadership while I was there. I basically brought up like, hey, what do you think of
Yeah.
And I think they're in about the same position I was, where they're like, yo, dog, they did not say this, but if I had to like summarize what I think is going on, is like, yo, dog, we just picked a charity that was local and had animals. Oh, like,
well,
I don't think they. So it comes to like, will they do them again?
Well, so not to like flame anyone, but one of the things that other conventions will always tell each other is you must vet your charities.
You should.
So like, as a people that put on a convention, that's not good. It's not like they're the worst, but that should not happen again.
Yeah, we have a standard in furry for a reason. Like, yeah.
I'm curious to see what they do next year.
Well, Zan, it's both that and there are grifters out there, and there are things that have charity status. Like,
yeah.
They're just
and then just from a straight up
take your money.
Protecting your event. The number of times, if you're in the behind closed doors with a bunch of con leadership and you ask about, hey, what's your nightmare charity story? And you'll get multiples of people saying, we didn't do enough research about our charity, which led to insert incident here.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things no one really tells you until you have one happen to you, and then everyone in the room goes, oh yeah, research your charities.
What's the news on right-wing FurCon? I mean,
right-wing
it exists.
FurCon is likely to not even happen because of
Sure?
the people involved in organizing it. I was telling Zanny about this. Like, their existence and operation is so against the grain of what is reality, they can't even... They're not going to be able to get a contract across the finish line because at a base level, even if people at the hotel believe in, yeah, America, free speech, well, they got to deal with the business and money. That matters more. And if people are just too reckless and can't even follow a contract... So, like, when your con leader is openly saying, again, content warning, nothing wrong with lynching a few...
Wow.
And, like, they can't help themselves. That's going to get sent to the hotel, and they're going to go, no matter how much we believe in this, if there's a shitty person running it, you can't do that to the brand. It will be stopped.
It takes a lot of, to sound fucking schmaltzy, it takes a lot of love to get, like, I think that FurCons are slightly powered by, like, good they have to be powered by good intentions, or they just fucking fall apart or destroy themselves, or, like, bad thing after other bad thing. And then when you go to actual, like, like farther right weirdos, like, times 10, it just gets amplified, where it's kind of hard for them to keep organizations together. Like we heard about today, Richard Spencer is just like the real town fuck who just in his own hometown, everyone just hates him and like they won't let him into restaurants and shit. And his whole like the alt-right isn't really, it could be just wishful thinking. I don't think that like fascism as a concept is not dangerous. It is obviously, but I don't think that like the goofball LARPers, they can't hold their shit together because it always dissolves into nonsense. Or let alone, like Drag was talking about, getting your event actually through. And they even have the advantage of like law enforcement kind of like being on like liking them and not breaking up their shit as much. They just like you see they get together in a group and pepper spray each other in the face accidentally because they have no fucking unity. They don't know how to act as like collaborative friends. And I think that's gonna be the kind of shit that tears apart right wing FurCon. America FurCon. I really can't remember the name. I'm not just like on purpose saying it.
Also, I'm saying it here, their guest.
Turd Bird.
I used to say Shitbird, but the obvious better name is there, Turd Bird.
We're talking about two Griffin, in case, you know.
Yes, I, Dragor, am specifically calling to the ranting Griffin Turd Bird. I stand behind this.
Yeah.
Fuck that guy.
I don't want to dedicate a lot of time to it, but the consensus among people who have known him for a bit seems to be it's like, we don't know what he actually believes, but he does believe in making money.
Yeah, he's a grifter.
And that's where, it's in shorter words, a grift, I think. They weren't allowed in mainstream spaces, so they just had to hard pivot to, well, got to make money off the people who I can then go, I was banned from, look at me. Which,
it's the only people who would listen to him anymore, so that's where he's going for the monies.
So this is like a leftover one that I wrote down in my notes like weeks ago, but I think this can illustrate kind of a larger point about this sounds doomery.
You're like in COVID land. Like Zona is like kind of special in that way. Don't you think so?
This is not a COVID story.
Oh, okay.
So this is we had a proposition. There were a couple good news things that did happen in Arizona in 2020's election, and that was the legalization of recreational marijuana in addition to medical, and a couple props went through that seemed good. I mean, you never know until the law happens, but they seemed good in the description. One is Prop 208, which raised taxes on rich people only, and rich people and some when they say small business, what the fuck are they even talking about? I'm going to post this link in the chat, and you're like, that's pretty neat, and they're going to use the money for a thing that they say was supposedly good things. Great. So it passes, and Now it doesn't, though, because the court just smacked it down anyway, and it's kind of an illustration of just how this isn't me saying that giving a shit is pointless and we should all go kill ourselves. but I don't think I think electoral politics, you're just not gonna get. It just illustrates itself over and over that the kind of change that I am looking for personally just won't ever happen through it. We have a vote. Like this is how is this not just subverting the will of the people? Like yes, as people on like the like Republicans like to talk about.
It absolutely is.
Also, fuck. They have the Buffalo mayor who is a proclaimed socialist, and now a judge, unelected people, a judge is just saying, hey, we might just make you not the mayor anymore, or we might just remove the position of mayor completely, or we might add this many council members to then like negate the power of the mayor. Like all these things to just basically cancel out the mayor because they don't like who won. You could vote in the biggest literal communists, people who are like, I want to fundamentally change the economic structure of the U.S. in order to influence the rest of the Western world to try and implement a real classless society, communism on the world, and they could win, and it's still like it would get fucking flipped in the Supreme Court, or somebody would just buy like it just would somehow get flipped back around. I think.
There is
you know
no
what I mean?
political alignment around protecting the common people and doing things for them. There is no such force in our leadership.
Yeah.
It does not exist.
Not currently. And even if you voted it in.
I was going to say, Peppa, isn't it funny how like we learned growing up how having all this divided or the different how our government works, so with the different branches and how these are all supposed to cancel each other out. But in turn, it really, really, really inhibits any kind of rapid change or real change through electoralism. As you're saying, like there's so many things that can just fuck it completely just because a judge has a hair up his ass.
A judge or another senator, or if it since this is a state thing, the fucking the Senate could just decide no.
Yeah.
Or you could have Texas makes a law and then the court doesn't do a thing, and then that's okay. That now you can't get abortions. Maybe.
I mean, the last time we had a lot of change like that, they looked at when that happened. It's like, okay, how do we prevent this from happening again? We can't have another civil rights movement. We gotta stop this shit.
This might be a reach, but like you just said, we need to stop this from happening again. That's unity among a class. It's just not the working class. Like judges are definitely in line with the interest of capital, because how do you become a judge in the first place? It's usually you have a bunch of money. You like essentially buy judgeships. Like there aren't any judges who are like, I was born in a trailer park. It doesn't happen. like lawyer, like the lawyer class itself is its own kind of, and if you're a judge they don't like, then they'll just remove you anyway. But that's kind of my overall point. The ruling class protects itself. It puts these systems in place in order to subvert revolution. Like as long as you're working within the system, you can't. It's like going to the casino. The house always wins because the rules are structured in a way that the house always wins. It's not just like, oh, God decided that the ruling class are the ruling class because they're better or work harder. It's none of that. They got the power. They grabbed it early. They've been passing it down, and power perpetuates power. They give it to the next one, and they keep you out of the club.
And it fulfills a brain drug too, because at some point you hope, or at least I do every once in a while, like someone can think their way into make the world a better place. And it rarely, very rarely happens. Once in a great while, the random DNA flip happens. And it's not just the people at the top that like have the generational power. There's all of the working class that are cogs in the machine that have the allure, the temporarily inconvenienced millionaire.
I don't know.
That's what you're taught through all the media you consume, like your entire life. Not even just media, just the general culture. Like,
yeah,
if you swim in the water.
There's a grind culture story that we're all taught that, like, I worked really hard for my shit and that's why I have so much of it. Like, is what is taught to kids who have money.
Imagine what society would be if they didn't. Imagine if we didn't have the idea that hard work got you success.
Yeah.
Like this shit would just fall apart. Like it's so essential that everyone believes that to keep this phony baloney shit
It's
going.
a good grift. It works. It's the worst part.
keeps you working. So this is tied into the same thing as the other Arizona story. This is electoral, like an argument for like, look, we voted for the people and they took the action we wanted. But I argue that it still doesn't fucking work. So here it is. Arizona like is mad at Ben and Jerry's because remember a while ago when we were paying attention to Israel-Palestine things, and now it's kind of everyone's just like stopped paying attention again, like as if things have really changed. So Ben and Jerry's like, we will no longer sell ice cream if you in Israel occupied Palestine. So Palestinian land that Israel has just like rolled in and said, this is mine now, which just keeps happening. That's why there's riots, by the way. That's why the violence happens is the Israeli government, not Israeli people, like the state just rolls into a neighborhood and a bunch of people with guns stand outside a house and force the Palestinians to leave and then move in a new family or just like claim the fucking, you know what I'm saying? That's why people riot. It's not because of like, it's partly because of religion and other shit, but that's the big reason that you'll see people throwing shoes and then they get bombed. So Ben and Jerry's was like, we're no longer going to sell our ice cream there. And Arizona said, you're being anti-Israel and we are pro-Israel no matter what. Which, remember the context of what I just said. So being pro-Israel in this case is being pro the thing I just said, because the Israeli state is the ones doing this and they're not talking about the people, talking about the state. A lot of fucking Israeli people who live in Israel are Palestinian, and no one wants to protect them.
Mm-hmm. You have to suspect a person's willingness to appeal to authority if they are pro-Israel no matter what. Either they're just unwilling to think about it or haven't. Like it's not that much more of a reach to go, this thing and system that I do want to support is important to me, but that's bad. Like,
it's a way to perform that like I'm not anti-Semitic while still being able to support like the thing I just described. Like Israel, like you should be able to exert your power.
Yeah, it's your fear of being seen as anti-Semitic matters more than human lives.
It's a way to be both authoritarian and quote unquote pro-Jew at the same time, which is so weird because most Jewish people I know think Israel is super creepy authoritarian right-wing regime that needs to probably be stopped from doing the things it's doing.
Yeah.
Know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So the way that Arizona's like, we're going to fight back at fucking Ben and Jerry's because they, as a protest, wouldn't sell their ice cream in a place. So like, we will do this, which is to, let me read the actual thing. Arizona is divesting all public funds from Ben and Jerry's over the company's boycott. Now keep a pin in the idea of divesting from Ben and Jerry's because of the Israel, and they kind of summarize what I just said. So what they're actually doing, because you can't just divest from Ben and Jerry's, is you have to divest from Unilever, which is a giganto company, like a Disney level shit, but in the world of like food.
They're at the top of like a third of what you buy.
So you can't just divest. They have to then try to pull out a Ben and Jerry's, and just the idea of like what a drop fuck in the bucket Arizona's public investment into Unilever. It's like if I personally was stopped buying like Disney DVDs to attempt to boycott Disney. Like it has that level of effect on.
It's funny how companies have very much hidden their overarchingness on a lot of things like that. I never realized how much that happens in food. Like ConAgra, no one knows what the fuck that is, and owns like just tons of different companies.
Is that like the American version?
Yeah, basically, the company you mentioned, that did not ring a bell to me, but
Unilever is British. Here's a couple of their billion euro brands. Dove. Here, I'm going to do the ones I actually know. Dove, Axe/Link. Oh, Axe, the fucking body spray.
Yeah.
Magnum, not the condoms, the ice cream. Lipton, Hellman's. What the fuck? I don't fucking know.
Oh no, is that a personal one?
Sunsilk. Oh, I just like mayonnaise. Just in desserts, the Ben and Jerry's, Breyers, Fudgesicle, Magnum. I just said, most ice cream. You know what I'm saying? Popsicle, the brand,
Yeah,
that is Popsicle.
Imagine if the same brand and logo was on all those products. How creepy that would be. They wouldn't do that because they know that's weird.
It'd be like shopping at Kroger.
You see that Kroger label on everything, even in
On
Mariano's.
fucking everything.
They don't even hide it
Freaks me out.
anymore.
Yeah, Fry's just has Kroger shit. I'm like, yep. But people don't even put it. If I say, do you know who owns Fry's? I'm like, oh, I thought Fry's was an Arizona company. I'm like, well, it was.
Yeah.
And it's bought by Kroger. Like people know that we don't like megacorps anymore because of like the thing we talk about, how all movies in the 70s, 80s, 90s now are like big evil megacorp is bad. So they try to obscure that. Funeral homes do this, where big megacorps own most funeral homes now in the country, but they don't change the name or the aesthetic. But all the money made by mom and pop, former mom and pop, now just goes up to like Grave Corp or whatever the shit.
Yeah.
Oh, but it's still called like Harry's and Sons.
Billy and Sons, yeah, exactly. Because people don't want to go to a fucking thing that looks exactly like every other funeral home and like says Walmart on the front.
I want to go to the Walmart.
I mean, if Walmart ever gets into the cremation business, all I ask is when people take me there, make sure to direct the fumes back into the store.
Oh yeah, Dragger, you're adjacent to that industry anyway. You know about that.
Oh yes. I
You
work
see it
in
on the
obituaries
website.
and deal with funeral homes. Same thing with obituary stuff, except ours all look the same. But if you think you're going to your newspaper's funeral home listing stuff, there's at least a 2/3 chance that it is in fact this other company instead.
Jesus.
You can tell on the funeral home websites. That's when you're like, oh, I see. Like if you like know what you're looking for, you can go, this is a copy paste website that everyone. Okay, like this is a standard form. Like to a greater degree, this is my argument for why not my argument. I would say evidence for why boycotts just don't work very well in modern day, especially because of how monopolies exist and you literally don't have other choices in many cases, to the idea that even my state government doesn't really have the amount of sway necessary, because they're not talking about Ben and Jerry's. Even if it was just Ben and Jerry's, now they have 49 out of 50 states. Like they'd still be basically okay. This is Unilever, who owns all the shit I just described. Like I'm sure they don't like not getting that money, but it's not going to really fundamentally change the thing. I would argue that even the entire United States could just say no more Unilever, and it would probably hurt a bit. But they're a European company, and they would fundamentally be okay at the end of the day. Like it finds a way to perpetuate itself. It's like I feel like I'm describing the Matrix. It's like a fucking virus. It is the Matrix. That's what it is. How fucking huge and all power. Like you must act outside the system, because one thing Unilever can't account for is like all of its employees saying we no longer wish to work for the evil megacorp. Disband and give us ownership of all of the assets of the company. Which I know sounds crazy, but that's what you would need.
They could not do all of the assets, but in the United States side, they could, lock things out and take over the offices and, whatever tech platform access they have. Like, it wouldn't be zero. It would hurt a lot, and we still get things out of it.
A town chocolate factory deciding that we no longer want to make Dove chocolate shit. It's ours now, and we're making Fredericksburg chocolate.
Yes, absolutely.
That would be an actual move against, and that takes in its like organization outside of like, I will vote for the guy, and then that's it. I don't even know if I want to vote for the guy anymore. And I don't want to say don't vote, obviously, because a lot of these elections do directly affect people's fucking lives. But I'm not voting for Biden again. I don't know. Like, I feel like a fucking schmuck that he suckered me into doing it the first time. I don't want to. I'm definitely not voting for Kirsten Sinema. Fuck her. I would rather have anyone else.
Yeah.
If there's good candidates that I believe in, I'm absolutely voting for them, and I'll tell everyone I know to vote for them. That's what fucking Sanders was, and even he's like okay. It's just our options are so shitty. I hate legitimizing them by picking one.
I think, with our shitty system, yes, you should vote for harm reduction. I still believe in that. We're not voting for who we believe in the most. I still believe in, for what we have right now, for voting in the lesser of two evils, until we, like, obviously, like, real, as you have said, real fucking change doesn't happen through the elections anyways. But it does prevent a lot of bullshit that we've seen. done the harm done, but like we call Obama he did unlock the key of the of what do you call it, remote bombings with
Drone
drones,
strikes.
but Trump did 4 to 5 times more, and that's just numbers, and that's not nothing.
Biden and friends had 6 months to make sure that Texas couldn't fuck with abortion rights through the Supreme Court, and they didn't. And they have that right now. They could do a thing, and every single day they don't. There's so many campaign promises.
Student loan debt, which is
They
a
could do
drop
that
in
now.
the
Yeah.
bucket to any finances, and they continue to choose not to.
I do not believe that electing them will make things better because electing them hasn't made things better. And that's overly simplifying, but that's where I'm at. And I don't think anyone should. I'm not telling anyone to not vote because I don't really want to tell anyone what to do.
It's
But
hard to prove
I
what
get
would
it.
have happened otherwise. Yeah.
exactly, we have no test Earth. There is no control
Yeah.
case. We just have like here. And I don't know. Would it make a difference if they're like, well, and blah blah blah, president won with 2% of the total population's vote because people just are just so over it that no, like that's a like. Does that lead to the revolution? Because we go, your elections aren't even legitimate, then the country starts falling apart. Like, do we have to do all that?
I don't know. I look at stuff like the fact that Brazil's run by a fucking dumbass tyrant, that we're run by a dumbass tyrant, and most of the dumbass tyrant run countries are just exploding with COVID. So I don't know.
Yeah, more short term worries. How's
yeah.
It's not even.
COVID update?
Well, not to
You
them.
want to do a COVID update?
COVID update, it's here to stay is basically
It's
how
forever.
it's going. It's the forever thing.
I just got back from my con, so on Fridays will be 5 days after I got back, which is enough long time for a gestation period so I can get an accurate test. That's happening. Hasn't happened
Yep.
yet. Anybody else? Drago just had a test.
I
and
did.
Zan, too.
I don't know what happened, and I can't find info, and it was not a good testing site, but I never got a result, so I just waited out 2 weeks, and I quarantined to safety.
I got my second COVID test. That was clean too from IFC. So yeah, that was less pleasant, but still fine.
So this segment, this is like practical advice segment. Where did the both of you get? Like, you might have said it already. I'm sorry if I missed it. Did you get it at like a pharmacy or like what kind of facility
for
did
me,
you go to?
suburb drive-throughs.
Yeah,
Drive
same.
through like a
Drive through
permanent.
Walgreens. That's what I did.
Oh, okay.
No, they set up like little shipping container offices in strip mall parking lots.
Oh. Yes.
Neato.
We have like a mobile van in Phoenix, but the place I got mine was the place that usually does like drug P tests. That they just process those all day, and they've set it up where I don't know if it's free without the insurance, but my Medicare fucking covers it, and it takes 15 minutes. It was crazily easy. That was like barely touched my nose. I want to be like, get in there, come on, like get a fucking sample. It was excellent, and it ended up being free because I get the government healthcare because I'm poor enough.
Yeah, I'm still on that poor healthcare. I'm trying to ride that shit through my transition. So
Keep it forever. Keep it as long as you possibly can. That's part of why I don't marry more, because then my income would be reported differently and I might not qualify. You know what I'm saying?
true.
So, Drago, you had some topics I want to make sure we get to.
I do. And talking about medical stuff, so I have an email that I'm going to read part of, just bits and pieces here and there. As mentioned during Tuesday's stand-up, all full-time employees will have the opportunity to complete a biometric screening at no cost to you, which is a wonderful opportunity to learn more about the current status of your health. If you register before December 31st, you get points in a system. You can complete your screening by visiting a LabCorp lab or just getting it through your annual physical. And this company that's doing the benefits and points management thing will help you find a LabCorp thing, so rest assured there is some financial ties there. The benefits you get provide us with a number of blood screening results that are crucial to understanding our risks and overall health status. I think it is supposed to say your, but it's really fucking funny that it says our. The results that they want that you will receive: blood cholesterol numbers, triglycerides, blood glucose, and more. And then they say follow up with your doctor. And then at the bottom, ways to earn additional points, completing other recommended wellness screenings, such as routine cancer and many more based on age and gender.
Wow.
So before, because I'm aware of a lot of these things, and I've worked in insurance and medical related stuff before. So Pepper, Zanny, what is so fucking wrong with what I just read off?
Oh boy. You can get points for giving us all your fucking. Oh my god. Take a picture of your asshole. 50 points. Wow.
What is the biggest violation or thing that would normally be considered a violation that they are skirting around by doing this? Because there's a very
just a way to-
specific thing they're doing.
To me, I just see it as a giant means test because at least mine was it was tied to either continued or enhanced benefits where they were like, look, your insurance is shittier, but if you do X, Y, Z and obtain enough point, we also had a fucking point system by my third year of having the shit. Then we are allowed to give you less money. Like it's and it's only a healthcare savings account in the first place. These are freaking insurance plans that do cover catastrophic, I guess. Like if you're in a fucking coma or you need your brain replaced or something, it would in theory like help. But for the most part, it's you get a bank account and like if you're lucky, $1,000 a year, sometimes
Well,
zero,
so
and you
that's
have
what
to
you
add
get.
your own.
But what's the nefarious thing they're doing?
Well, it just minimizes the amount of money I have to pay out because if the points were at least for me then tied to an additional 1,000, and it just allows them to pay me half of the fucking benefit.
Okay, well that's in the immediate for what they're doing, but by participating in that, you are willfully providing this information, which sidesteps various laws that are used as protections against medical-based discrimination.
Yeah, or at the very least, they're at the very least mining biometric data from whatever third-party company you're forced to use, who then sells that to probably GNC or like Fitbit or whoever, who then can go, okay, but better product. Blah, blah. Like,
There is a lot of free juice getting here, if you will. Like, did y'all ever give blood? I'm sure you've.
I got blacklisted a long time ago.
Oh yeah, me too.
Oh, I just lie.
But I would do that, because it was like I thought it was the right thing to do or whatever.
I won't give blood for the same reason I don't want to vote. It's because like they're gonna take my blood that I gave them for free and they're gonna charge someone $90,000 for it.
Yeah,
like,
that is true.
I understand you got to pay the staff, but I know after all the rat fucking of insurance and just the fucking do-si-do of hand the blood bag back and forth 10 times so you can tenfold increase the amount it costs, and then the administration of the blood costs another $100,000, and then like, you were in a bed, so that's $10,000. You know what I mean?
But
everybody knows what I'm talking about.
Get blood points and how we need you because you're an O positive donor, and you would get all sorts of guilt trip shit.
Yeah, because fundamentally, donating blood is like good, and it saves lives all over the place, and it needs to happen. But they've also decided that the gays can't do it, which is like that's the politics angle of.
I got to be honest with you. I'm impressed at how much, for the most part, companies and corporations, when they do the various blood drive stuff, have taken the utmost care to never ask anyone like why they didn't. Everyone is clearly told never ever 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 ask that. It's done there. Like all the phrasing is, if you want, this is a good thing. Here you go. To avoid the inevitable confrontation of should anyone ask me, immediately it's they're unethical and they can screen but don't. And I've been blacklisted for saying I sucked a dick in 2004.
Yeah, donating blood has yet to be culture poisoned. Everyone's pretty chill. It was just like cool. It gets us in high school. It got me out of a couple periods because I got to donate blood and eat graham crackers.
They would get you out of periods for that shit.
Yeah, you get to take off because you're like, oh, I feel a little woozy. I got to sit down for a few hours.
Or like get back out there and dribble a basketball.
Hey, I got a mainstream minute.
Yeah, do it.
Twitter @Joe Biden tweeted, "We are now the only developed country in the world whose economy is bigger than it was before the pandemic. Our economic plan is working. As of today, we have over 670,000 dead people from COVID."
Good news, everyone.
I added the COVID stuff.
Scoreboard.
It's just what I freaking was talking about. Like, we voted for the people, and then because remember beforehand they're like, if you don't vote for Biden and all like blue
I was
wave
one of
shit,
them.
you're a horrible racist, terrible
Well,
person.
no,
worse.
not that.
Well, I'm just like, if you ever like people yell like, oh, fucking Bernie bros are ruining America and they're not gonna vote for it. Like, it was so heated. If you criticized Biden or said like, have we all forgotten what it was like to be in late 2019? If you whisper that you're like, I don't really like Joe Biden, you're helping. You love Donald Trump. You're helping the Trump campaign.
Well, no,
and
if someone
you're ruining
says
the country.
they don't like Joe Biden, I go, neither do I, but at the very least, like, queer protections get to stick around longer, so go do that, please.
Yeah.
Everybody excited for 2022 when they lose control of everything. Everybody excited for 2024 when Biden loses or dies or... Yeah.
No, I'm not.
But fucking nothing's gotten... he is sitting there, essentially, that's like his mission accomplished in a tweet. Where he's like, look, America's doing fine. We're making money, okay? Shut up and go to work.
The GOP puts us in like a road to hell. Then the Democrats slam the brakes, and everything like is like still shit. And then they just go.
Yeah, but they're
and,
not
like,
slamming
into
the brakes anymore. The
They've
brakes are
applied
gone.
cruise control.
Oh, there's still brakes. There's still brakes to take off.
They're just obeying the speed limit. The car continues to move forward. I mean, the kids are still in the cages. I still got to do my student loan payments whenever the COVID thing was. The fucking is the eviction moratorium still off, right? Nobody did anything? No one's fixed that in the last 2 weeks? And then there were judges in certain places. Oh, no, a judge struck it down because they said the CDC doesn't have the power to do that. Congress has to. And Congress is just like, yeah, we've had 6 months and it's not enough time. If we fix things, why will we have to tell you that it's extremely important that you vote for us in 2022, 4, 6, 8... Makes me want to die, and it's why I think...
I am just as jaded, and...
It's not even jaded, it's just looking at the evidence and going,
well,
there
that,
it is.
Yeah. It is discouraging. The evidence points to not good stuff coming.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we'll all get the benefits right at the last possible second with everyone panicking. Also, if you saw Boozy's tweet, the government is suing people who got the pandemic unemployment insurance, being like, you think you got that fraudulently, and hoping that you don't know the right...
Specific to Pennsylvania, I believe. It's happened in other states, though.
Check your fucking mail, people. Make sure the government's not trying to take your unemployment back, and then you have to appeal it. And then, as long as the good news of all that shit is that it has to be like provably malicious. Like, if you're like, I'm a dum didn't know I didn't qualify. That's it. Trump card.
Yeah.
It's really, really hard to actually get somebody. But if you like miss a deadline, that's how they get you. Is like, you don't turn the paperwork in, you don't appeal fast enough, and then the punishment, if you get, it's like non-fraudulent or whatever, which all of them are as long as you do the paperwork on time. The penalty is like, in the future, if you get unemployment, they will take some of it, which is way better than give us like $50,000 back because you got the PUA for like a full year.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
I wish people who are against like unemployment things in general would realize what happens is when you means test all these things and whatnot, is it just takes longer to get the thing. So people just take longer getting the thing rather than getting back on their feet and making the economy better, which is what you fucking want. So it's just...
Economists love the extra unemployment and all the money people got because it really helped everything. It was only good.
Yeah, economists get it. Of course they do.
And they're trying to claw it back. That's the thing, though. Like, we're even beyond the point. Like, neoliberalism has gone beyond the point of even pretending to have logic under capitalism. Like, they don't even do the things that you're supposed to do according to their own rule set. Like,
it is naked greed and acquisition of wealth at all costs. And like, I don't know. I continue to a reaction I see from people when it's brought up, and like I confirm and go, yeah, it's been like this for a while now. It's just people have a sense of bewilderment because it wasn't. I don't know, to either the two of you, to anyone listening, type in chat. Was it always this bad, or are things more apparent and getting worse? And like, it's going to be a bit of column A and column B. But how much, we read in history, we read about things like the civil rights movement. We learn about these pivotal things that have happened. They have happened. To me, it looks like on the books that since the 80s, the whittling away of every single social protection and service, late stage capitalism is not a joke. Like you see it, it's literally where we are at right now if you look around and put the pieces together.
So what I'll say is, like, both factually, yes, there's never been a bigger divide between the upper 1% and the working class, and we've also never had this much reach to each other in a technological sense. So you got both of those working at the same time, and it's interesting. That's what I'll say.
Yeah, we learn about more of it.
Here's a related plug for a thing we do. We do a thing we record a podcast every other Wednesday, and at least for the foreseeable future, I'm doing a thing that I'm calling, jokingly, sarcastically, Bible study, where we read actual socialist texts. And we started out this last week with the granddaddy of them all, the Communist Manifesto, which, as you should all know, is like 20 pages long total. It's very short, and you should read it on your own time. It's free on the internet. You just type in Communist Manifesto PDF. Boom, there it is in every language conceivable. And Marx is a guy who was writing this in the mid 1800s, was not just talking about in philosophical senses, but giving historical examples of the acceleration and crazy pace that capitalism is forcing us along at. And that was in the 1800s. And it has demonstrably, like, it on a logarithmic scale, things go faster to shit every day. And that's why it's so fucking scary. Like, you can see it in the climate change projections that were like, holy shit. Like, if you look at the technology curve, the curve that just goes like normal line and straight up line, like, that line also exists with our destruction of our own world and the avarice of the ever shrinking upper class, true owning class. Like, there's fewer and fewer of them as they buy each other and just eat, like, the power concentrates, and it's like that game where the fish eat each other. Like, eventually you only have and then you have a ruined world and 12 rich guys. Or actually, you ship all the shit into space, remember? That's what Bezos says he wants to do. He wants to send all us into, it's The Expanse. Remember that show? That is what Bezos thinks we should actually do, and that's not an exaggeration. He has it written down all over the place. He said this.
I love The Expanse because it shows it never stops. It never stops. There's always like a better, like, you know.
Even in The Expanse, Earth had a period of genuine post-scarcity society. Like, we just talked about the quote-unquote performative things or by our own rules system that capitalism is supposed to do, and it's just not. It at least was doing that in The Expanse.
Yeah, I don't see us getting there either. Because, like, you would have to rely on the belt to really pull that shit off, I think. Because you need some shit you need the universal South, if you will. To rely upon.
I do believe in humanity's ability to save itself. I don't think there's a single cataclysmic event coming, even with climate change, where like all of humans die. I think
that we know of.
Like, if we don't consciously change the way that things work, they will just continue to work this way, and we will literally have fucking space capitalism where you slave away in an asteroid mine.
Do you want to have the terrifying true existential fact of our universe?
Sure, do it.
If we were even so lucky enough to find out, a meteor or a gamma ray burst will end us. And if we get to find out, there is nothing we can do.
Wow, fun.
Hey, let's invest and treat each other well and fucking evolve our species and ideas and get to gay space socialism, please.
Yeah.
It would be very nice.
Yeah. What was interesting earlier, just reflecting back what we were talking about, I really never appreciated how much a lot of the powers that you were mentioning force things apart to make sure that people can't fucking unionize and strike and do these mass things as much as they used to, by evolving their ways to keep that shit separate, you know, through just through redlining, through the way the transit system works, through suburbs to cities and all that kind of shit. And it's really going to take some kind of leaps in technology, kind of like we're seeing with the way we can connect things and connect to each other, that's going to have to facilitate the next big change to get over that. before those fuckers find a way to shut that down too.
The only actual solution, the actual literal solution is like, it sounds like, I'm not saying this in I'm trying to get away from utopian style thinking. The actual thing that causes the change is, without being silly and utopian about it, a revolution. Not a finger snap, Thanos, suddenly everything is amazing and communist kind of revolution, but the kind of like, there will be like, the same way that we always have achieved things. There will be some kind of strike, maybe in a larger sense of that word, but until the means of production are ground to a halt and capital is actually injured, that's the only way to hurt capital, is by grinding the means to is to stop the money coming in. Because we've proven that if you do that, even for a very short amount of time, like that does get you some change. But in the meantime, until you have like a big, I'm assuming most of us aren't at aren't working at like a rail line and suddenly about to do a revolt and shut down a thing. Right. In the meantime, like educating yourself and the people around you, which is why I'm doing Bible study available to all patrons. Get on our Patreon, give us $1, and you can come to Bible study also. We read through a text through each, like talking and being philosophical is great. Like it's good for camaraderie and like going, man, shit sure is weird in the world. Don't you see that? Like I do see that, and it like is nice and builds community, and I like it. Reading theory, reading like some theory. I'm not saying you have to become a fucking Marxist scholar, but like this shit is not unavailable to you. It's not inaccessible to you. If you're like, I'm a dummy, I couldn't possibly understand. You can't. This is meant, the working class isn't like some weird zombie shepherd hive to direct towards our future. Like it's us. We are the ones. We must, like, you can understand it if you read it. Like, and if you read it in a group, it's even more fun and enjoyable. So join us.
It's also
a lot the recordings.
Better because you get to check against each other. Like, hey, what's the cultural context around this at the time, because that's very important.
Yeah, we will eventually get out of things written in the 1800s in German. There is more modern things, and we're sticking to mostly it's like essays. We're not trying to dump Das Kapital on you, which is thousands of pages. I want to do like 15 to 30 page essays. Before there were video essays, there were essays.
Yeah.
Essays.
And you'd make a pamphlet and throw it at all the Germans at the bar and try to get the fucking dock workers to agree with you.
With comment on the revolution, the poem by Jill Scott Heron, "The revolution will not be televised."
Mm-hmm.
The intent for that, go read it, go look it up, but like from the author themselves, the intent is the revolution is what happens in your mind when you decide things could be done differently.
And in a literal sense, the news is not going to like support or like hype it up.
Oh yes, it will be actively fought against. But when they say the revolution will not be televised, it's that it is because it is an internal thing in your head on how you feel and how you look at the world. The number one thing I do continue to try to do is, if you're ever having a debate or chat with someone on any of these topics, always ask, what is the point of money? When people say like, oh, it'd be great to have $5 million, or, I want to be a billionaire, or to people that like are in positions of power, straight up ask them, okay, but what is the money in service to? I think it's really important that people consider. It's the same thing of no one really thinks about where their stuff comes from, aka that humans are putting labor into these things they're consuming and they're suffering for it.
Yeah.
Like, you can't get people to change their mind, and it's going to cause a lot of strife and a lot of resistance, but all of us have gone through it at some way, shape, or form. What's the phrase? A leftist is made, not born.
Yeah.
We have to spread the idea that there is another way, and that, yes, you can have a say in how we do things. Like, offer agency. It's the thing most people don't have. I've commented several times, Zan, you've seen it. People that are living lives with the least amount of agency, when they get some, they cling hard.
Mm-hmm.
Pep, you've probably seen forms of this. In the condo associations, for example, you'll always hear people, look down their nose or say, oh, busybodies. Chances are that's the only form of agency they're getting and unfortunately they're being abusive with it, but like consider where it came from. Offer positive uses of agency.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we are at about an hour. I want to, it's every big topics, but I want to at least lightly touch on, literally mention and then end. The California recall election is going on right now. Currently, everybody's favorite website, 538, says that, keep, like as in Newsom is not removed as the governor, is at 54%, and remove is at 42%. So it looks like a pretty wide lead for Newsom keeping his job. I just want to remind everybody that at any time Gavin Newsom could voluntarily step down as governor, the lieutenant, who is also a Democrat, would become the governor, and the recall would be canceled. But they don't want to do that. So instead, we have to do this and waste an insane amount of money. And then you're forced to go out there and tell people to go vote for Gavin Newsom, who is a demonstrably bad governor. But here we are. These are the choices we are given.
There's a YouTube guy who's like everyone's freaking out about running for if he gets recalled, but that looks like it's not going to happen anyway.
So let me give you the names of the top competitors are still the radio guy. I think it's Larry Elder. And under that is he's at 25% of the non-Gavin people. And then, Paffrath, Paffrath, Paffrath. Oh, is it YouGov? No, that's a poll. Never mind. I'm like, is there a candidate called YouGov? But those are the top ones. And the second place person only has 7%. So, seems to be Larry Elder all the way if you're not voting for Newsom, but it looks like most people are gonna anyway. Anything else constructive to add? If you're a Californian, vote or don't, but be aware the election is happening.
Well,
Yes.
There will be a recall or not? Is that what's first, or I don't even know?
Yeah, it's phrased as a 2-question thing. The first is should we recall him, yes or no? And if you say no, don't recall him, that means he keeps his job. And then under it, it's like who you want to replace him if he gets recalled. And the Democrats didn't do any moves they say vote no. That's the whole messaging is just vote no, and that's it.
Of course.
See if it works. I guess. I also it's the shittest shit, right? It's just a little microcosm of the fucking what is it?
Well, all right, let's spin this.
Douche. Here we
let's
are.
spin this into what should this event look like and would it happen more often? Because in our direct democracy society, there's still positions we vote people into. Things will happen. There will be some kind of like this event will still happen in any form of the society we're advocating for. So like
you're talking about the concept of recalls?
The concept of recalls, the concept of still being an active participant in voting and being in democracy. I just always want to make it clear that we're not shitting on being participants in our society. We're very upset with the fact that you try and participate and you don't get to. It doesn't help.
The concept that I think has merit is the idea of an incompetent or abusive anyone in a leadership position being removed for any reason and the ability for that to happen. Yes, obviously, yeah, of course. I think a big help with that, if you're talking about I don't know if like the California recall system though it's kind of like saying that elections are good, but that does not mean I support the Electoral College. Like,
yeah,
some voting systems are just really dumb, and all of ours are. Every single American election system is stupid, and I can say that unequivocally.
There's a state that did ranked choice or a
Maine
town?
thought about it, and then they tried to undo it, and maybe they're doing it. I don't know.
Oh.
Then New York mayor thought about doing it, but ran it weird. I don't know.
So what you're saying is no one has actually done what the mathematicians proved is ranked choice. They do some dumbass version and then go, it didn't work.
And even that is like pasting ranked choice on top of the 2-party system where like we don't even vote for like the Democratic Party, which is a company, runs the primaries, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
At its very foundation, our whole election system is just stupid.
There was still a class of people that didn't cast votes for Bernie because of some weird notion of, well, they'd be throwing their vote away. And I heard it enough that I at least want to see ranked choice voting as a try. Like we don't have enough data to know where things would actually fall. So the ability to get some real unaligned progressives, like ranked choice would at least allow for that from a math standpoint.
Yeah, it's gonna take some real. It's just, I don't know, if, like push to make that happen.
So thinking outside of our current, like how things currently are now, what would you feel about the kind of things that I like hearing about are like rotational position, how to do leadership in a way that doesn't play into like money and all the weird shit that we have now. And I like the idea of having just anything that dilutes the power. I don't think we should have single presidents and governors. I think it should be at the very least like a board of a whole bunch of people, like 7, 20, 50. I don't give a shit. The more people, the more represented my vote is, because, you know. And I think the position should be like rotational and based on like expertise, but even then, like, who gets to define what expertise is?
It's about how do you hold these fuckers accountable when they can fudge the information or.
Oh yeah, and you should still just be entirely beholden to like the laws, which seems a very obvious thing to say, doesn't it? But also just isn't how our society works. Where if you're in certain positions of power, the law just doesn't apply to you de facto. Like, remove that. That sure would be a good thing. I think rotational positions are good because it's like, look, you're in here for a little bit. It's going to be really hard for you to like seize and wield this position advantageously for yourself, even if you tried to. And if you did, that's when we're like, okay, what would the mechanism be for a recall? Or it'd just be like, okay, we're skipping you on to the next guy anyway. Like, we already have
crimes
6.
Do we have like printed out on the front page of newspapers for the Trumps and how much they stole out of like lying on their taxes? But you know, we can't just go after them for reasons.
Yeah. Nothing will happen to any of the Trumps. It hasn't, and it doesn't seem like it even will.
They're
at
like,
the very
hey,
worst.
Y'all, 20 years, it might Barron might have to cough up $5 million or like
In
what?
6 years, we move to this court, and at that point, 95 days remain for a summary letter to be sent to this attorney. And you're like, Trump is 80 years old. He's gonna like, they're gonna be like, he'll be literally on his deathbed. You're like, and you've been served. He's dead.
He's at, right.
Like,
He's at his 900th steak sandwich, and you're still, and
Like,
it's still in
obvious.
this court.
We have such a shit because I mean Trump was not originally meant to be in that group of protected people because he doesn't go along with like the phony baloney statesmanship of like the office of the president, where George W. Bush was like a little funky. Then Obama was back to like, oh yes, see, I am the, like, he still did, they did all the same like crimes and still like drone strike Afghani weddings and shit. But Trump is just perceived so differently because he's now in that group of people who just never can get in trouble for anything no matter what they do. And no one really likes that, but it's also just how things are because
It's
of
a
our
weird way
horrible,
of, like,
shitty, bad election system. That's what it produced, was him.
when we punish powerful people, like, people think it's a way of like kind of admitting the mistake that was made. But it's themselves who put themselves in power. So
It is frustrating.
Let's call it. Final thoughts.
I mean, I'm wearing it on my sleeve. I'm pretty tired. I'm pretty exhausted. It's hard to be optimistic, and I know a lot of y'all feel the same.
Look locally. That's where you'll have your happiness. The
Yeah.
people around you, if you can help them, if you can be helped, make friends with your neighbors if possible, if they don't suck too bad. Like,
Yeah.
make friends with the dude at the gas
I'm
station.
not going to say it on air, but Zanny knows why I can't quite do that.
yeah.
Find a working class person and hang out. Like, just
No, and I do
camaraderie.
those things. It's a big pick. Like, in my day-to-day life is a lot better. I've changed job roles. I'm not working on ads, so I'm no longer directly working on one of the cogs of capitalism, and it's fucking great.
It's kind of
You know, among my friends and like the people I help, like, that's good. But big picture, it's that fog, that oppressive stink is a lot stronger these days, and it'll change, and I'll get fired up, and I'll find a local
Especially now
candidate I
since
like.
The WHO has said that this is the forever thing, and we're gonna see how capitalism deals with the forever flu.
COVID
It
for all
could
time.
not, but we as a species could just stop.
I know.
Until the material conditions exist that correct COVID decisions could be made, like the way COVID has gone is like inevitably how it was gonna go based on the system that we have and continue to like not buck off, like continue to tolerate the 0.0001%, deciding that it's more worth it to get Amazon purchases to go up than like actually deal with the thing, and like, oh, but if we start dealing with the thing, then we'll have to deal with other things. We can't have that. Like the peasants will ask for even more. And
Honestly,
this is where we get.
Depending how long this goes, if it goes forever and ever, I do see the socialists all moving to the same places, just because you don't want to be around the COVID fucks.
Even that comes down to who can afford to move.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, absolutely.
All right. Hey, everybody. It all sucks, and us too. This has been Last Minute Politics. I'm Pepper.
I'm Zandy.
I'm Dragor.
Bye.